we'll jump to the story from Fox News. This is Fetterman blasts South Africa genocide case against Israel amid unrest, crime. Sit this one out. So the interesting thing is, he's maybe because his brain is broken, he said when you now look at what's going on in South Africa now, they should sit this one out. And everyone immediately said, in reference to genocide, is he talking about what's going on with the farmers? And of course, there are people who have come up and been like, no, he's talking about apartheid. No, that's not even true. Yeah. I don't know what he thought he was talking about, but his own statement now is he was talking about Sudan, apparently.
Well, I think they're trying to cover up. I think he actually meant, because he said some pretty, like I said, he's more based than a lot of the Republican senators right now. I mean, he was all for, what was it, U.S. Steel. He came out in favor of, you can't get rid of that. You can't sell it to, I guess it was the Japanese. He came out, he's been very pro-Israel. He's frankly actually mocked a lot of the Palestinian protesters that started going into his office and around that. He's come out publicly as a Democrat senator who, a year ago, it was pretty darn woke, said, like, of course we have to shut down the border. What's going on there is absolutely insane. Like, of course, so it doesn't take a leap based on the actions of even the last few months to say, he was probably talking about the white genocide of farmers, which, again, if it's happening to white farmers in South Africa, I guess that's fine according to the mainstream media today, but it's actually happening and it's a real problem. And if we had actual journalists rather than sort of DEI/woke regime propagandists, they'd actually be writing stories about it.
Absolutely. It's fascinating to see his kind of development, since the poor guy could barely speak sometimes.
It's almost like the treatment process from the brain aneurysm actually was like, now he's actually getting better and he's not espousing the insane policies of the left.
That might be the way how you deal with the woke mind virus. But I find him fascinating. Ever since he came on the political stage, I always said, I want to see him as the VP for Biden. I literally created BidenFetterman.com as a way to spur on this idea. And the way that things are kind of shaping up, the way that he's being kind of prompted up there, it could happen. And
but now the left is going after him because he's saying things that at times make sense. And again, I'm a guy I was crapped on by the mainstream media over and over again because, when he was running that campaign and when he became I'm like, there were times he was getting on a stage, he forgets where he is. He couldn't form a complete sentence, but he'd keep going. And it was clearly like an episode. And I sort of went after it, and people called me an ableist. That's apparently someone who discriminates against those with disabilities. And I was like, well, I just don't think it's an unreasonable expectation, even in, this was 2023 America, to expect a United States senator who's making trillion-dollar decisions and or could be a deciding vote in a 50-50 Senate to send our children to war to be able to have basic cognitive function.
Yeah, if he was a dude at a restaurant at another table and you made
fun of him.
You're
the checkout guy at a place. I love that you're gainfully employed. I think that's awesome. I'll give you a high five and respect it. Like, if you're making trillion-dollar decisions, if you're making life or death decisions, we should not be like, how dare you discriminate against. It's like, it in no reasonable society in history now or in the future would it not be okay to be like, hey man, we just need a reasonable level of cognitive function to sit there.
I feel like that with age. It's not age, though, because Biden and Don are like similar ages, but like it's mental cognizance. And we got all these old people, and I don't want to be ageist. I really don't, because some people are 70, even 80, and they're brilliant, clear thinkers. But there's something, too, like we gotta talk about
But not everyone ages the same. By the way, listen, you're not allowed to talk about looks anymore, but it's the same thing. You see people, and there's guys. I'm 46. There's guys I graduated college with. I'm embarrassed to tell people like we went to school together because I was like I can't look like that. If I look like that, you age differently. The same thing happens with cognitive decline. God willing, we all go there longer. But I know guys in their 60s that are a mess. I know guys in their 90s that would run circles around the average 20 or 30-year-old. You see it a lot in business. Like some of these guys, they peak in their 60s and 70s business-wise, and later. Because they've been able to sort of learn and grow and get to a point. And then you see, Joe Biden. I mean, my father had a sort of an interesting one. He used to tell me this story, early. But he was having, conversations with like Ted Kennedy back in the day. Like, Joe Biden was always known as the stupidest person in the United States Senate, like throughout his entire tenure there. That's not like disputed. That's just Senate understanding. Now, he's also had 2 major brain aneurysms. I wrote about this in my book, Liberal Privilege. Like, he's had things that if you asked let's call it all the same telepsychologists that said, like, if my father grabbed a railing walking down a slippery ramp, he must be in the later stages of cognitive decline. If you ask those same people honestly, and they had even a modicum of intellectual honesty, like, no one could go through 2 brain aneurysms and be 100% fine. Almost statistically impossible.
Well, it depends on which version of Biden we're talking about here, as of course a lot of people
Well, but watch a video of him
yes.
10 years ago. Watch a video of him even as VP. It's like, it's a different voice. It's a different speed. It's like, say what you want. There's a decline. It ain't the same.
Yeah, I remember talking to him a couple years ago, specifically when it came to Pakistani ISI funding and meetings that he had right before 2001. And he was sharp. He was quick. He answered right back. He was taking questions from people left and right. This was just a few years ago. Now, the poor guy, if it's even him, according to some people who are saying, hey, he's probably replaced by some kind of other impersonator. That's also possible too. But a lot of world leaders have a lot of impersonators. If you're dealing with someone who can't walk around or can't hold their bowels, why wouldn't you use the impersonator, right? I mean,
but it's like Shane Gillis, right? The Roomba sort of analogy. Like,
exactly.
Shane Gillis, and it's perfect. Like, he's on a stage. Like, I do a lot of public speaking. I get up on a stage, I talk, I walk off the way I can. I mean, he gets lost. I got like canceled on social because I said, well, he's clearly lost. No. He was shaking hands with someone in the audience. I was like, but the audience was there, and he's pointing 180 degrees from he was clearly lost. Whatever they jacked him up with to give the appearance of, even temporary lucidity had worn off, and he's lost. But it's not like it happened once and you forgive. It happens every time you see him speak. There's a reason, he had nothing on the schedule today, but his wife was on ABC News talking about his great level of energy. He's taken 40% of his time on vacation as president. Like, there comes a point in time you have to call bullshit. Right?
But that's why they like him, because he's the perfect puppet.
There's a video right now of Trump Sr. walking out onto stage for the town hall, and he walks up, stops, looks to his left, walks a little bit, looks at somebody, and they're like, look, he got lost. And I was like, I saw this claim first, a tweet saying Donald Trump getting lost on the stage says so much, and I was like, oh, he got lost? I was like, I'd like to see this. And then I watched the video, I'm like, where in this video does he get lost?
Yeah, he made eye contact with someone, was like, hey, how you doing?
Right, and then he starts walking.
Joe Biden's doing like an air handshake to the curtain for 7 or 8 seconds.
Yeah. Remember when he started speaking backwards?
Yeah.
So he was on stage, and he was looking at the curtains talking, and everyone's like,
well, how many times have we seen the headline, he walked off the stage before the ceremony was finished? Like, he was, doing something and giving a ceremony, and he shakes hands and then just walks away through the middle of the crowd, and they're like, no, over here. How many times have we seen the video of him, trying to be guided into the Oval Office by the Secret Service because he walks past the entrance of the office he's occupied for the last 3 years?
I have one word. Trinidad Nash up under pressure.
Yo, this is something where people make the mistake of comparing one president to another president. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. That dude is sharp. His mind is healthy and clear. Biden and Fetterman we can talk about in a little bubble if we want to. What do we do when our representatives get messed up in the head? You're supposed to do something about it.
But they don't. They won't, because the reality is this. The Democrats, listen, I honestly, whoever's actually in charge of the Biden administration, whether it's Susan Rice or the Obamas or whatever, he's the perfect fall guy because he's actually doing all the things Obama would have loved to have done. Open borders, pushing the trans crap, gender surgeries for 3-year-olds that can't make other decisions in their life, but sure, you can make that life-altering decision because they wouldn't be willing to destroy their reputation. They wouldn't put that face in front of the American public. They're happy to throw him under the bus because he'll sign an, he's like Ron Burgundy. But put it on the teleprompter. He'll say it and it's the gospel. He'll sign it if you stick it in front of him.
But they could have him do anything in terms of foreign policy and war and always just use him as a scapegoat.
Exactly. 100%. He's the fall guy. So he's actually, for the radical Democrat agenda, been quite effective because they can actually do the things that the American public wouldn't let them get away with.
Do you think it's Democrat? Because I think of it as like a global monetary.
Well, I sort of look at the Democrat and a lot of that sort of World Economic Forum, globalist, those ideologies are sort of...
One and the same.
They're not one and the same, but they're blending significantly.
And Vivek's view on this is Nikki Haley is their inside job strategy. If they can't defeat Donald Trump at the polls in the general, they'll try and beat him in the primary with Nikki Hillary.
Yeah, well, that's why I said when there were people like, oh, Nikki Haley should be VP, I was like, can you imagine the I don't know if I can curse this stage in the game, but the
You've been cursing.
Yeah, I guess the MF-ery that would be going on from her team trying to subvert everything that he did from every moment. Like, it's like, so I don't,
What is it? Was it?
Well, the CIA
Yeah, someone puts it out there.
You need a food tester.
Yeah, the CIA would get their heart attack gun out right away.
Yeah.
And then, they would install
that's why,
Nikki.
Yeah, with the Vivek, or people joke like, hey, Don, you should run as VP because then no one's assassinating your father. I go, that's, wait a second. Because, but yeah, I mean, it would be a disaster. So, yeah, there's no question. There's plenty of, and by the way, like I said, we're talking about, half of the Republicans in the United States Senate. I mean, they're not all that different from the Democrats. Nikki Haley is, Hillary Clinton dressed up as a conservative for Halloween. Like, give me a break. Like, he wants to be in every war imaginable, stooge of big corporate. Like, it's lunacy at this point.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.